My favorite moment from this season is when Dean says to Sam, I need a win to go on. So first of all, I want to tell you that you are my win. And then I want to ask you, have you ever felt like him? And if you did, what was your win, if you want to share it with us?
Sure. I mean, I think anybody who's lived, you know, a decent life has had struggles and had loss and had tough times and felt down and out and needed some inspiration. And I've certainly been there. I've certainly had my fair share of trials and tribulations. I've lost a few people in my life, very close friends. One in particular was a roommate, died in a horrible car accident when I was younger, in my 20s, early 20s. And I was with him on the trip and I was following him. He was driving his car and I was driving my car. It was pretty bad. And I remember coming back home after that. The whole ordeal kind of started to iron itself out, and we were on a road trip. And I got home and was like walking into his room, and there were three of us living in his house. This was in California, and I just remember I remember needing some sort of like resolve and some sort of inspiration to be able to cope with this situation. And it came from my roommate, from his father, who showed up to collect his things. And he gave me some incredible motivation, and I found it within him. The fact that he was able to take the loss of his son and turn it into inspiration for somebody else, I thought was like one of the most magnificent things ever, and I used that for many, many years. Yeah, so inspiration comes in many forms. You know, the will to survive, the will to thrive, the will to keep going. It comes in many forms. You just have to be available to accept it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Writing a character. I was wondering, how do you incorporate your research into your work without getting caught in trying to play an idea or a concept?
I gave up the idea and the concept of who Dean is a long time ago. He's a part of me now. And he's a living, breathing character, and he is, to steal a quote from Sylvester Stallone, the best imaginary friend I've ever had. And so sure, there are ideas of how I think he would react in a situation, or how I think he would process certain information, but it's living and breathing, and it changes, and it changes with the characters and the energy that those people give him and challenge him with. You know, when characters like Charlie come along, that changes Dean, because in a way it was a reaction that I had with Felicia. Like, she was just, I responded to her. She was just a wonderful person and a brilliant actress, and somebody that I truly enjoyed working with, and that was reflected in how Dean responded, and it you know, it all kind of was it worked, but it wasn't a preconceived notion. It was like, well, this is how Dean would react in any situation. Like, no, it depends on the situation. And then it depends on how I feel that part of me would react. That is Dean. So he's ever evolving, and I think I'm very truly thankful that I've had 13 years to evolve with him and watch him evolve. It's been truly one of the biggest gifts of my life. Thanks.
Every season I watch it, I'm really happily surprised by character development and story arc and where the stories go, because I'm not that creative and I never can predict where it's going to go. So, and I often wonder how soon in the development of a story do you know where the story's going? Like, for example, Ruby, did you know when they introduced Ruby, was she going to kill Lilith? Or, did you read it in the last season and go, at the last script and go, oh my gosh, I didn't see that going there? Or, when do you see stuff like that?
No, I kind of opt to not know as long as possible. And I would say the only other person that has that kind of information available to him is Jared. Jared wants to know. He wants to know as much, as soon as a script comes out, as soon as the writer's draft comes out, he's reading that writer's draft. The problem is that the writer's draft then goes through a complete revision and then becomes the studio draft, which is what they send, the writer's draft they send to the studio. The studio then makes their notes, those notes get changed, then they let it out as the studio draft. Then the studio then sends it to the network makes their notes, then they send it out as a network draft, then they send it to production makes their notes, then it comes back and then they make a production. I mean, it's like so many different variations of what the script is that I'm like, why would I read something in the writer's draft, get really excited about it, just to have it be gone by the time we get to picture? So, but for some reason Jared just wants to know all the different variations, and he's a nerd like that, and that's why we love him. I, on the other hand, I just don't want to waste my time. Plus, it kind of messes me up chronologically in my head. If I start thinking about what I'm doing in this particular episode, and I've read ahead, things that I've read ahead start to play into the choices that I make for Dean in this episode when they shouldn't, because that hasn't happened yet. So I tend to keep it a little bit more chronological, and I will wait to read the script that I'm shooting a night or 2 nights before I start shooting it. And I feel like I have created a system that works for me, in that I can read it. The difference is when I read a script, I read each scene about 2 or 3 times before I move on to the next scene. Jared reads the entire script like a book, and then he'll go back and read the whole script again from front of him. But what I'm doing is sometimes I'm even reading the lines 2 or 3 different ways, and I'm like, okay, if I said it this way, okay, if I said, oh, what if I did, okay, if I said it that way, yeah, now we move on. So I'm making the choices literally as I'm reading it for the first time, and that's, I don't know if that's a recommended way to do things. But it's worked for me, and I'm okay with it. So anyway, to get to your point, I don't read ahead. So I'm on as much of a roller coaster as you guys are. And then, to be honest, the last edit of the script is in post-production after we've moved on and are shooting a different script. And so when I see that final episode on television, sometimes I'm surprised. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. They didn't use that line, they didn't use this scene, they didn't use that reaction, which kind of changes certain things, but I see what they're going for. I see the rewrite that they made in post-production. Good to know we can apply that to the future episodes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Myself, and being the historical costume nerd that I am always interested to see when shows.
Well, you were very well dressed, so it fits you.
I'm always interested to see when shows time travel. And Dean gets to travel a lot. through time. So my two favorite episodes are Time After Time and The Vessel, because, I mean, you look mighty fine in that suit. And a few weeks ago, you posted on Instagram a little hint that what might happen in season 14, which I hope will happen. So my question is, what time period would you like Dean to travel to that he hasn't been in yet?
Well, to be honest, I don't know if it's, well, it's not.
Costume-wise.
Yeah, costume-wise. Well, costume-wise, so, I mean, I don't think I don't think it'll be any secret, but at the end of this season, and the next episode that you guys will see, when I take on a new character, that character has a look, and that look was crafted by our amazing costume designer. And Carrie called me and said, "What are you thinking for this?" And I'm like, "What am I thinking? What are you thinking?" And she's like, "I just didn't know." She's like, "Well, I'm just giving the opportunity for a little input." And I'm like, "Oh, I got some input for you." And I sent her a couple of pictures, and she was like, "I love it." And so we went with a kind of a 1920s look. I do too. I think it was some cool fashion back then.
I think you will look amazing in white shows.
And it's fun. I mean, you know, look, I love my job because I get to be different people. I get to play different characters. Even playing the same character, I get to play different characters. I mean, Dean gets to be a FBI agent. He gets to be a hunter. He gets to be all these different kind of varieties of people, and that's one of the great things, because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I wanted to be a lot of different things, and I found a profession that helped me be that. So,
Amazing. Thank you so
thanks.
much.
Something that I've really loved seeing play out on the show since the first episode until now is how all the layers of Dean's bravado have kind of been stripped away, and he's been becoming sort of more himself and more expressive. So I was just wondering if character growth like that is something you're conscious of as an actor and director, or if that's more a subconscious thing. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I think I'd like to say it was something that I'd planned out, but I think it truly is more of a self-conscious thing. Again, I'm kind of on this ride, and this roller coaster with the rest of you, as far as where the storyline goes, where these characters go, the way that those layers get peeled off, and it is something that has kept me interested for many, many years, and it's something that continues to keep me interested and continues to get me excited and to inspire me to find new nuances. If you'd have told me a year ago that I would have a scene with Catch where we bonded to go off and fight together, I would have been like, that's not going to happen. Like that's just not in. That's not in the. Dean doesn't have that available to him.
Yeah.
But we found it, and so I love that, and I think that's very humanistic of who we all are. Is that sometimes we're capable of things we don't think we're capable of.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.